Hey friends, Alain Picard here. It's the season of wonder, and I am excited to spend it with you. Thanks for being with me for this exciting YouTube Live. I want to show you, do a little revealing of secrets today. I'm going to reveal my secrets to creating shimmering ornaments in pastel that glow. We love the way the light sparkles off of an ornament. And so I want to give you some ideas how you can create that shimmering glow, how I like to layer to build up some interesting ephemeral effects, and how to bring those highlights as we move toward the end. It's great to see you all. Thanks for joining me as I take a look at you in the chat. So glad to be with you today. We're going to jump right into it and get to the easel. I'll be using a sheet of sienna pastel matte today, just a smaller sized painting. And I can't wait to get into this with you. So if you like these videos, be sure to like and subscribe so I can keep to bringing you these inspiring themes and encouraging your creativity. Are you ready to paint? Are you ready to go? I hope so. Let's get into it. So here we are at the easel, and I've got this, image of an ornament off of Pexels. It's a kind of a fun, classic image of one single ornament. We've got some sparkle in the background, which is always accompanying a Christmas tree. We've got some sparkle on the ornament texture. It's a lovely gold. We've got the green pines of the Christmas tree. So how do we do it? How do we capture that sort of ephemeral glow? That's what we're after today. I thought it would be fun to start with this kind of warm golden pastel matte sienna as a way to just set up the mood of warmth for that theme to follow. And I've done a little thumbnail sketch here, which just sets up basically your values. You gotta know your values. So I've got the dark values on the bottom, and really on the whole left side, we've got almost a triangle of darker value, a little bit of dark up top, but the light all happening through here. And some photographic sparkle in the background, which is not as easy to paint as you might imagine. We've got to communicate that more with mark making. So the first thing I like to do is start with a piece of vine charcoal and just sketch it out. We want to map out this composition. This is 7 inches wide, 9 inches high. I didn't want to create too huge of an ornament here, okay? So let's get right to it and lay this out. And as we do, we're just looking to kind of frame out the painting. So first, sometimes I'll just notice, where is that big change in value? So I see this kind of diagonal through here, and like everything down here is darker, everything up there is a bit lighter. Right in here, there's a bit of a change in value. So one secret I just want to give you right out of the gates is if you want your ornament to shimmer, you got to get your values anchored. You've got to get the darks dark. And we're not going to jump in with those darks until we've framed out this composition, but we need to know where they are. This ornament occupies most of the lower half of the sort of left center framing of this composition. And I'm just going to very simply, notice I'm using sort of straight lines almost to close in on a circle, because circles are hard to make. Making a perfect circle is not so easy. You can make a center line for your ornament, can be helpful. So then you can see the symmetry of the left and the right. More than anything, I just want to encourage you to squint, squint, squint. This is not an Alain Picard secret. I say it often. Squint, 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 so you can see those values and compare. We've got this top of the ornament here, really kind of adorable. A little bit of an ellipse at the top. And it's actually resting. It's nestled into this tree. It's resting. Maybe it's even on an Advent wreath for all we know, since we're close up. So now we've kind of captured the scale of this Christmas ornament, and I'm just suggesting a location of a few of these pines. We've got these pines holding it up. There's some out of focus down here. Really so important just to have some texture, have some value that kind of sets the tone for where this is, kind of goes behind here. And then, around this area it's out of focus. It's very out of focus, but there's a bit of a shift in value through here. And then we've got these really interesting little pretty leaves and dangling elements, and they create an interesting look to have this other greenery involved in the scene. So I'm going to capture some of these sort of simple leaf petals. The bokeh of the camera, you can see that as well. I'm not going to quite draw those right now. Again, whenever there's an effect that a camera makes, like that the bokeh is those circular discs of light, if you try to paint that photographically, it's quite difficult, and at the end of the day, it just looks like you're painting a photograph. It looks like you're painting the effects of a photograph. I think we should communicate that more as sparkle, like mark-making sparkle. So we will create some version of it, but with a bit more of a loose mark-making approach, okay? This in here is a little berry on the leaf. So I'm just mapping, again, stepping back, mapping these shapes, looking around the hole, coming underneath this ornament here. Before you do anything, they say that fools rush in, right? So we want to take a moment and just establish that compositional drawing. We want to really know where our shapes are landing. So we have some sense now of where these leaves are dropping, a little berry on the vine of that branch, some in the background, some in the foreground, and we'll be able to layer and build. You can indicate some of the areas where you see light if you like, but we're not going to get a colored a pastel pencil out and create a perfect circle there. We'll use some soft pastel effects later in the painting to develop that. Now what we need, because this piece of art that we're creating today is all about the shimmering effects of an ornament. So first we'll need those darks around it, because if we can build those darks, there will be a sense of light. But now, as you squint, lots of this ornament is in shadow. So another super important aspect is to map some of the locations of your light and shadow on the ornament itself, so that we can kind of see, oh, okay, that's where the light's going to be. There's some reflective elements. There's a crackly texture on the surface of this ornament. We won't really be able to capture that exactly in pigment, but we can suggest it. Okay, so I see that highlight. I see another highlight up here. With pastel as a direct pigment medium, we want to keep areas of highlights clean. We don't want to, put something really dark down and then layer over it, because that could create for us some challenges. Sometimes I'll just take a piece of vine charcoal and just even begin mapping a little bit of my values with the vine charcoal before even going to color. And that just gets me thinking about tone, thinking about the way the tone sits on the surface. Sort of come in here, even on the ornament. A lot of this lower left side of the ornament is falling into shadow. Is taking on the reflective dark green of the branches of the pines. And having that change of value, even before we get to color, is really going to help us understand when things start to shimmer, start to capture the glow and the light. Okay, so I basically got this. Well, the only other thing I might want to say is that there's a little bit of, reflective light over there, but I basically got this composition all laid out. Take about 5 minutes to do that with a simple composition like this. And now let's just come down. I've got some colors at the palette here. And, my palette's a bit of a mess from underneath because I've been painting and painting and painting, but I did organize some gold. So gold in that sort of orange, right? I mean, it's orange, but it's rusty golden orange. That's really important for the ornament. And then moving towards the pines, the blue-green is really important, because if it's too warm throughout, I think the gold doesn't get to show off. So blue-green is going to complement those golds. And then maybe a little bit of like blue-violet, which is the other side of almost a split complement. So that blue violet over here. So the blue green, blue violet will play against the gold family. And those peachy and pinkish and mauve-y neutrals will be helpful to kind of just create the shimmer and the glow. So I'm going to pick up a couple of these dark blue greens and jump in here. There we go. And this is a big full stick Terry Ludwig pastel, nice blue green. And I'm just going to start laying them down on this pastel mat. The pastel mat has a nice smooth surface. And even as I see that blue green in the ornament. So a part of creating a shimmer is to get some of that reflective color into the shadow side of that ornament because it's reflecting what's around it. If you were to change the color entirely and not sort of anchor some of those reflective colors and values, you'll miss out on creating a lot of harmony with your reflective elements like ornaments and anything that has a shiny surface that receives light and bounces light. Okay, so we're just now starting to build that atmosphere. We're going to continue. I need a darker version, really, but we'll get there. First, we'll just build up this wonderful blue-green. I really like this color very much. I think it will look wonderful against gold, that orangey gold that we're going to be working towards. We're thinking strategically about how the ornament colors are going to look surrounded by this, okay? Always important that we have a bit of a color concept going. So we've got orange against blue green and blue violet. Now, yes, there will be other colors in this piece, but it's a great start. You can also see that I'm putting different directions to suggest the pine. This is blue. I'm coming in with a deeper blue and just kind of coming underneath and breaking up the blue-green and squinting at my subject to see where those values change. Yeah, I could probably come in here with a deep forest green as well. Maybe we will. It's important with a piece like this that we layer. So we're applying some pigment here, but we're going to layer some more right on top. We may do some sort of blurring and blending as well, just to kind of push things back to keep some interesting sense of visual depth, even within this narrow plane of just the ornament and the tree around it. You see, we're picking up on these leaves, and I'm just quickly capturing them, a suggestion really, with this soft pastel, where I see the darker values. And stepping back, okay, I'm going to come in actually with a very deep navy. This will be a darker, this should be a nice deep navy, rich and dark, and we can get a value that's very dark now to anchor the shadow side. And why do we want to do this now? Because we want our ornament to shimmer. So one of these really key secrets is, while others are chasing after the light in their paintings, you're going to anchor those shadows, anchor those darks. So you'll be set up for a brilliant sparkle as soon as we go to that lighter side. Now that really starts to anchor that left side, which is great. I'm going to kind of wipe this around just to begin to soften out that transition here and there. I just squint my eyes, squint at it, and capture the impression. I want to see that value drop down a little darker below. That's starting to look really nice. Okay, I'm going to come back up with a lighter blue-green in the mid-value and just start to map in some of these little petals. And this is more of a turquoise. This is again me thinking about orange. A golden ornament. Red and green are not the only solutions at Christmas time to make this look festive and beautiful. So that golden ornament, I just want it to look beautiful by surrounding it with some lovely sort sort of blue-green. And then, you know, we can still come in and use some regular greens, some warmer sort of greens that move towards the yellow side, but this will complement our palette beautifully. Step back and squint. I'm going to come a little darker over here. Just come back with a more neutralized blue-green. Just come in and I'm just going to take, you know, the side of the soft pastel and sort of chop at the area where I see a value change. So we don't have to be so concerned that everything's just right. We're mapping in some value. Okay, I'm going to come down into here and try to create some variety. So you can see I've got a change in value with this being a little bit lighter. I'm starting to cover more of that paper underneath. We can rub the paper with some paper towel or foam or something if you want to get textures to disappear quickly. I want a little more pigment on the surface before I do that. I hope you're all moving those pastels, having some fun. Okay, as I look around, this is starting to come together, but I want to see a bit of that warm green in the, you know, in the surrounding area. So I've got a nice warm forest green, and I'm going to begin to indicate some locations. I'm going to bring it actually into the ornament as well with that reflective color. If you squint your eyes and notice that the left side of the ornament falls into shadow, then let it go in shadow. Don't let your brain trick you into thinking, oh, no, that's a shiny ornament. It's light. It has to be light. If it goes to shadow, it's going to look much more real and have much more form and dimension if you can capture those shadow shapes. Here we go. Start to get a little warmth mixed in with the cool. So it's whenever we're thinking about color concepts, it doesn't mean we don't use other colors at all. It means we have a concept that drives the big color relationship. So we have our big color relationship be a dominant narrative that develops in the painting. Bring a little bit more of this green here and there. Good. Okay, so now that I get to this point, I mean, I could use a little more value down here. I don't want to leave that kind of paper sitting there staring at us. So I'm going to come in with a darker, kind of even more neutralized dark green on the warmer side and just push in on that and get rid of that corner. Just really let that rich dark build. Okay, that's better. Okay, now as I look, I would like to go into the ornament and start to build midtones, but I think a little more work in that area could be a good idea. I'm going to get a neutral. I'm going to go to a violet neutral, and I just want to get away from both the green family and the gold family and kind of say, hey, this is kind of atmospheric background. So I'm using this neutral to communicate that, this violet gray, kind of not very strong as a color, but it works great. And this will keep the middle of this where we want a little more value anchored back there, keep it from looking light and bright and peachy sienna. So essentially, anytime you're creating, this is true of sunsets, this is true of anything sparkly, this ornament, you've got to manage how many other things are light and bright so that the ornament can be beautiful. It doesn't mean there aren't other areas that have sparkle and light, but you just need to ensure that there's a really beautiful effect here. We will have some sparkle to the right to create the continuation of that sparkle and wonder that takes place. I'm going to come right in and start to transition with this lavender from these pines to the background, and even sort of poke through and say, hey, there's a little sky hole here and there. I'm going to switch over to a bit stronger violet and just poke through a couple more times in that area. Okay, starting to come together. Oh yeah, I can see a little sparkle up in the top left, but I don't want to preserve that. I'd rather kind of layer something back on top than try to preserve that at this point. As I squint, I see a little bit more mid-tone moving through that plane, that top sort of third horizontally. And it's warm, isn't it, in the photo? But I'm going to push it a little bit further back. So here's this more grayed version again of this lavender. So a little more neutralized, but it should sit back there nicely, okay? How's your ornament going? We're really setting this up. We're getting things ready. I'm going to take a break in 5 or 7 minutes and take a peek at the chat if you want to ask me a question. Great. Now you can start to see how there's the pine colors and the reflections that are going on the surface of the ornament. And again, I'm going to bring this grayed down violet right into this ornament. I'm going to bring that atmosphere and pick up on it as a reflective element in the ornament. That just creates harmony. Okay, so now we just have this little area here, and up here it probably needs to gray down. I'm going to come in here with a, look, this is really a gray, isn't it? It's maybe there's a little bit of a cool cast to this, but it's very gray. And I'm just gonna come up, I'm just trying to cover a little bit more, a little bit more. I've got a lighter one as well. This is a bit of a mauvey or lilac gray. It's got just a bit of violet in it. And I'm just going to carve, really see some negative shapes. I mean, if that leaf that is kind of out of focus, it can be there, it might not. You can decide in your painting how to let those various leaves dangle, maybe rearrange them according to your composition. We are the artist, we're the director of our scene, so we don't have to just accept everything that we see in the image. We just need to use it as reference and then also kind of ensure that what we're creating is, it's going to work, it's going to benefit the composition. Yeah, I like having this neutralizing because it's allowing that warmer color to look more like a glowing sort of golden, and it still pushes through from underneath in a nice way. Okay, there is a little star wired, a wired star. Let's not try to protect that right now, because if we do, we'll get labored. We can maybe carve that in with a small hard pastel later if we want to add it in. Now, I've barely touched this ornament, but it's already starting to look like an ornament, which I think is wonderful. I'm moving over towards the little bit warmer violet side just to play with this background more. And I'm just looking for opportunities to carve and suggest and transition and create that moody atmosphere, that magical moody atmosphere. I love those photographs that are taken that have those kind of out of focus backgrounds with the rich bokeh. We love them because they create a sense of depth and they focus your attention on whatever the subject is. So we can create those effects in our paintings as well by keeping things moody and out of focus behind our whatever our object or subject is. And, you know, really playing with that selective focus. Coming in, I'm just gonna squint at this for a moment. I'm gonna add a little bit of this just transitionally in this area before we go in with our gold. Yes, we will use color here, I promise. Okay, I'm gonna clean my fingers for a moment. And as I do, you know, we built up the sketch, a lot of the background. I'm just gonna take a break for a moment and see how you're all doing. How's everybody doing? So Anne's in the rabbit hole. Okay. I'm so glad to hear that. It's wonderful to see you all. And if you are watching and this is going by quickly, you can, of course, jump on the replay later and watch it again. You can just observe and then take your time in the studio to create your ornament in response to this. That's also a great strategy. And I love seeing that. So we're doing well. Lena's still alive, which is great. Bonnie's enjoying herself, which is wonderful. Norma likes the mark making. Hi, Norma. Hey, Kathy. Hi, Graciela. It's great to see you, friends. So one of the reasons, my little secret to why I turn around and I talk to you for a moment, is not just because I'm very social, which I am, and I'm excited to see you. It's also because I don't look at my painting for a moment. And that's another secret, because if you can step away from the work, turn away, don't fixate on just that ornament, you're going to be able to see the whole and create that shimmering effect, okay? So as I jump back in, I'll have a fresh sense of where I want to go with this, which is really, really helpful. Okay, so as we look, let's just jump right in here and start to add a little background here, and then we'll grab that ornament and go, okay? So looking here at the ornament, I'm going to get some peaches down on my palette, maybe a mauve. Move towards those pale. I'm going to keep that pale neutral around, and a pink. Okay, let's see what I can do here. So as I squint, that ornament, I want it to be really warm against what is not the same temperature color next to it. So I'm going to use some, this mauve has some lavender to it, and it's getting warmer, but it's not as light and bright and warm and glowing as the ornament. So again, I'm just working around this subject to transition. And you can see we can sort of carve at some of these leaves. Notice that I'm not over blending. Now, you can absolutely get in there and break some edges and blend, but you'll notice one of my secrets is I actually don't blend a lot. And then when I do it in a very intentional way when I'm looking to create edge variety. Nice, now we're getting a good beginning of a nice glow happening. I'm gonna come in with this. It's a cooler pink and it's light in value, and just start adding some shimmer, but a shimmer that's not warm. It's a shimmer that's cool. And again, this is a little piece of, in this case, this is a Terry Ludwig pastel, very soft and broken so that I can create these little chops and strokes and let them sit. I can create little linear marks and dabs, and come in on the lights of the ornament. The ornament essentially is just the pastel matte paper right now. I'm going to come in here. This is the warmest we've used yet. I'm going to move towards some of these sparkles. And notice I'm not trying to create perfect circles because I can't, so why bother? I don't mean that I'm not capable of it. I mean, pastel as a medium it's just not going to look quite right if I try to create these perfect circles. So I'm reinterpreting those marks as choppy, sparkly, wondrous moments. Okay, so I bet you this is the same value as the paper, maybe darker. Yeah, it is a little darker, but this is a yellow ochre on the green side of yellow ochre. And I'm just anchoring just a bit more of that mid-tone value on this before we get chromatic, we just kind of keep it quiet. It's good. We can even come into the background here and there with that. It's funny, this yellow ochre, when you use it, it goes on darker, and sometimes that's because there's some other colors woven in. Okay, I'm going to take a step back. It's time to get in on the gold, so I'm going to grab a couple of golds down on my palette, some yellow ochre, burnt sienna, maybe a darker umber, and we'll begin. So really squinting my eyes here to see where this shows up. This will be a strong, warm color in the mid-tone, very chromatic. So as I squint, I see it coming over here. So notice I'm laying this down on the ornament, and I'm utilizing a mark-making strategy to convey or suggest the shimmer and the glow. We can't put this everywhere, or else it won't have that resonant shimmering effect. Okay, we have to really choose our moments as we use the more chromatic color. I see it up on top of the ornament a bit. And I'm stepping back often to take a look. I see it over here on the right. I realize there's a bit of a little light on the edge, but that's beautiful to see that warm glow on the side. Now it's, oh, you really start to feel the beginnings of the glow happening here. I'm going to try if this is darker. It's a little darker. This is another one of my kind of burnt sienna orangey golds. Okay, I've got a more neutralized version here. It's more of a burnt umber. So it is a brown, but you wouldn't think, right, oh, I'm going to use brown on this ornament to make it glow and sparkle, but you can't have everything be bold and audacious. You need neutralized versions of color and also darker tones that are a little less chromatic, and then sometimes lighter tints. And they all work together and pull forward to create the shimmer. So as I squint, I'm starting to see, okay, I'm starting to see it happen, but we do need some gold up top. So I've got a golden yellow ochre, nice, really moving towards the yellow side of the hue family, as it were. So this is golden ochre. Whenever I say gold, it's like yellow that leans towards the orange side, right? So not a lot of light in this color, but a lot of helpful chroma. And I've got another golden that's more chromatic. See, a little lighter than that other, and very nice and chromatic. So the ones that are rich and saturated are going to give us that pop, that punch of color. And they'll really start to create the sparkle. And you're going to notice with the texture of this surface that I'm not looking to blend things a lot. I'm looking to let it be, and hoping that as I develop this, there will be a feeling of texture, like of a little sparkly textural surface happening on this ornament. I'm actually going to take my finger and just scrub in there like that. So I quiet down that little transition. And as we get underneath, I don't want to use a lot of this gold underneath, because that's where, you know, this local color, that sort of reflective atmospheric feeling is happening. Just wanting to knock that back. This is a really strong color. This is in towards the red family, but it's rusty. And I'm just going to indicate a little bit of this sort of rusty red as we move towards the shadows. And I can layer over. If it gets carried away, I'll just layer back over it. But I want a couple of moments where we kind of feel the ornament moving towards warmth, and then maybe falling back towards cools again. You know, obviously the gold is very warm, but you know, little flickers where the the red side of orange pops out. Not super strong, but got a lighter version of that here. All right, so I'm going to clean my fingers because I want to go lighter. Get a nice clean piece of paper towel. And before I do, I'm going to take that paper towel. I'm just going to kind of take it and fold it. Get a little edge. And some of this, I just want it to diffuse a little. I'm just going to knock it back. You know that soft focus? I'm just going to let some of this sit back and be a little less attention getting as far as the edges are concerned. Now I'm using a light hand. There's a little berry there. I can pull it back out. But even just like sort of softening out a leaf at times can kind of push it back and give you the feeling that it's out of focus, it's in the distance, or it's not a member of the importance club, right? The very important elements club in your painting. Even coming down here, just knock out a little bit more of that texture. And then, you know, let that edge just kind of softly transition up into that ornament. And we will come back in with a little more layering. And that layering, you know, where you soften things out a bit is very effective. I don't want this to look like there's some ball at the top that's, yeah, there we go. That's better. We're just kind of knocking back some of this, you know, in some paintings you would use an underpainting to create some of that. But yeah, we just quieted some of the edges there. That's a really effective way to go. So coming back in, I'm going to start using lighter and brighter golds. Here's a nice warm light gold. And notice how I'm being very choppy. And this isn't the lightest light that we'll use, but I'm setting up the area with some of this wonderful light value. You don't have to match every little sparkle and thing that's happening in the piece, in the ornament. Just get the suggestion. Get the suggestion going. You can go, I'm going to step one step lighter. So I've got some different creamy yellows, like sort of tints of creamy yellow, Naples yellow. And I'm just using one after the next to create that glow. So it goes from shadow side into those golds and into the lighter yellow that's neutralized, and then even lighter still. And then ultimately a highlight that will be even lighter and brighter. And as you squint, maybe you'll see little moments where things happen. Drop a sparkle on there. Give it a go. You know, if it doesn't work out, we can knock it out later. You know, we can pull it with your finger, just knock it back out. But you're going to want to see some of that sparkly wonder. You just don't want to overdo it. Overdoing it, you know, your eye will run around everywhere. Okay, this is a really creamy schminke. It's a creamy light. It's still on the yellow side, but it's almost white, and it's probably the lightest light that I need here. You can see we can go all the way to that beautiful light value. That looks great. How about that little wire? Maybe I'll come in here with violet. I don't know. Let's see if it shows up. Now, whenever you're doing something like this wire, you don't want to overly outline the whole thing. So just create a suggestion. Maybe you pick up on certain lines. There's times where the wire is sparkling with a highlight, and there's times where it's darker, right? So maybe you pick up on some of those dark moments and then leave it out where you see the lights. Just leave it out, you know, you don't have to outline the whole thing. Just a little bit more maybe. And sometimes I'll put it in and I don't like it, I'll knock it out, but then somewhere along the way, 2 or 3 layers in, I get the right balance of what I'm looking for. Okay, come in with a creamy yellow. These are new pastels, and just maybe capture a few of those moments where the light hits the wire. All right, that's probably enough. I get a little something there. I want to find some more of this peachy glow. So, you know, this is just actually the Pastel Matte Sienna, works pretty nice. I'm just going to touch at it with a little peach. I'm leery because I don't want to bring too much light into that area, but just a little bit of this peach. And then I'm going to use this warmer glowing color here and there to bring some sparkle into this background, bring a little kind of out of focus shimmer. You see, we broke the edge of that leaf and we sort of softened it out. And now I'm putting another mark on top. And so you get this nice layered effect. Marks over marks, one on top of the other. Don't match everything you see, right? We don't need all of it. We just need a little this and a little that, okay? Already that starts to look nice. Maybe just a bit more down in here. And then take it in, soak it in, see how it's looking. I'm gonna move over to my pinks for a moment, and I'm just gonna cover that Pastel Matte Sienna a little bit more. Drag that pink around, maybe cover a couple corners. Okay, I'm squinting again and looking at the shape of my ornament, and I'm just gonna work at the edge, just contour that a little more. I see a rim light, and it's not as light as the yellow, but maybe I can use this pink and start to get that to rim. That went a little low. That's a little thick, right? But that's okay. We can just push and pull. Now that I have pastel on the surface, I'm more prone to nudge things with my pinky, make some little adjustments. Okay, at this point, I want to take it all in and kind of soak it in. I think I need a little bit more dark, actually. I'm going to look for some deep violets. I'm going to look for here's a deep violet. It's a blue earth. I want to break up the green down here and just kind of bring something dark that's different. That looks interesting. Kind of ties back up to this color. So it's a golden ornament with purple on it. Doesn't that make sense? We bring these colors into the shadows, right? We bring them into the reflective elements. We bring them into areas to keep some variety and interest. Greens just get boring. If we're too green with our greens, they just get boring. And so these greens are reflecting back up into this ornament. Okay, I'm gonna actually bring out my deep navy blue again and just push a little more. As we kind of soften some things, we probably lost a little bit of that punch. I want to bring a little punch back to these pines. There we go. And notice I'm using almost a more linear effect. Bring a little on the side of that ornament. Carve for a moment, just carve that edge out, sharper. Push a little bit more in here and there. How does that work? Not bad. I think just a little more under here. I'm going to pop out this berry. Why not? Let's bring that berry out a little. Looks good. Okay, I'm gonna come back into my ornament with golds, strong glowing golds again. And when you want something to glow, you pretty much have to go from the light, lightest light, middle light, middle dark, dark. So you need a sense of a glowing transition, and the color needs to transition as well as the value. So, you know, if you have a really light and then you go to yellow and then you go to yellow orange and then you go to, you know, you can create that feeling, but just keep an eye on it. Chroma is a funny one. And certainly when it comes to yellow, we can get carried away very, very quickly. And so I want to just kind of be careful about that. Come back in, like maybe that was just a little more yellow than we needed there, for instance. I can just come back in and carve at it. I'm going to use a greenish yellow ochre. These kind of boring colors, right? These colors that get no credit in your painting, but they make everybody look good. Like this greenish ochre. Just kind of sets up the area, holds, glues the shadows over to the lights, and then makes the more chromatic colors really show off. Yeah. I'm going to come in with a bit of livelier green. Make sure this is clean. And I'm squinting. Yeah, I just want to pull out maybe a few pine tips. Yeah, another one or two over here. Just a little change of color and value just kind of puts a bit more dimension into the work. You don't have to understand it all. I'm going to go darker. Just about, I'm feeling that sense of that magical, wondrous space now, which is good. I'm just soaking it all in, looking at everything once again to see how I feel. I mean, in general, I like it a lot. I'm just seeing if I can play one or two little sparkly lights. Sometimes we can really just let it be broken color. We don't have to clean it up. We don't have to make it make sense. We don't have to connect the dots. Just let that broken color live on the surface. That can be really magical. And especially when you squint, if you see little moments jump out in the squint, as you're squinting at your image, you see lights jump out. You know, try it. See, I just pulled that down, which broke the bottom edge of the ornament, but you can come back in even with a charcoal, you could come back in and clarify that and maybe leave a little of it because it's interesting looking. Pink, peachy pink. There we go. Just see, break that pastel. There's another secret revealed. I'm just kidding. You really don't need to break your pastels in order to do good paintings. And some of you, if I tell you to break your pastels, I'm just validating the fact that it happens anyway, right? So that our pastels get broken. We're having fun here. I don't know. I felt like I need to step away from the painting. It might be done. Let me take a quick peek again. How's it looking? Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, I think it could use a little more form on the underside, like a little more value where it goes dark. This is a blue. I'm just going to push a little more of a, I feel like when the value on the dark side is clear, it's going to glow even more. See how we need those dark values in order to get the glow. Just take that edge and break it here and there. Wonderful. There we have a shimmering, sparkling, glowing ornament in the midst of the Christmas joy. I hope you're having fun with this, my friends. That's what this is all about. This is a season of wonder, and we can capture these sparkling and ephemeral moments in pastel together We can exchange that sense of inspiration and wonder as creatives. And so that's why I wanted to show up live for you today, just to share some of the magic of this season with you. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you've picked up a few secrets around how to bring the sparkle to your ornament paintings. And this would certainly make sense for a copper mug or any other, teapot or something that had a really ephemeral glow on it. You can use these effects. Make sure you layer and soften and layer to build up an interesting sort of topography of the surface. Make sure you build in those darks so that the lights glow. Make sure you transition from your highlights to middle lights, middles, middle darks, darks, a nice transition of value and color as you move from the warmest lights to the cooler areas so that that shimmer and glow is happening with a really radiant effect. What a joy it is to be together. If you enjoyed this, please like this video. It really helps. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Click that little bell so you can get all the updates and notifications when lives come your way. This has been so much fun. Thank you for all the kind comments that I see coming in on the chat. It's been such a joy to be together. And from my home to yours, my friends, I just want to say have a very Merry Christmas. And truly, may your new year be full of creativity and inspiration. And as we draw this moment to a close, I just want to encourage you to keep showing up at the easel for your creative dreams. It's been so fun to be with you. Take care, friends.